Yes, guys, welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 31 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this live stream, we are going to be discussing all of those important hot topics that I know a lot of you need addressing. And that's going to include things like the Rashford injury situation and what to do with him, what to do with Luke Shaw, my current team plans, projected points, and all of the other good stuff. So if you do want to stick around for this live stream, please do drop a like just to share it out there, let people know that this live stream is going on. And of course, if you are new around here, you enjoy the live stream and you want to stick around for the rest of the season, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. It is always massively appreciated. And of course, if you are tuning into this live stream, get in the chat, let me know you are here, let me know where you're tuning in from in the world, and of course, let me know any FPL questions that you have ahead of Game Week 31. A reminder, it's a Saturday morning UK time deadline, 11 a.m, just a heads up, that's obviously UK based. And as always, with this live stream, I'll be answering the questions throughout the live stream. It won't be a case of you waiting until the very end for your Q&A. I'll be answering them throughout. So please do not wait around, get them involved, and I'll be sure to answer them throughout. I can see Cheekster already in the chat. Hope you're doing well. Paul Gibbons as well. Hope you're doing well, my friend. And you've already asked a question. I'm benching Rashford, selling Chilwell, but who's the best option? So in regards to that one there, benching Rashford, selling Chilwell, but who's the best option? What do you mean in regards to the best option? Selling Chilwell options is going to depend on if you're free hitting in Game Week 32. If you're free hitting in Game Week 32, then of course the teams like Man City, Man United that are blanking in Game Week 32 aren't an issue for you. And if that is the case, then I think you need to focus yourself on which teams you need to target. First and foremost, do you want to bring in a Man City defender? If that is the case, I think Ake is the best move for you from a price point perspective. But of course, some managers out there don't want to go down the Man City defender route. They'd rather go for someone like Edison. So it's all about whether you trust that Man City defence or not and whether it works your strategy. If that's the case, I really like Ake as your Man City coverage. Otherwise, if you're looking to go a bit more differential, maybe someone like a Pedro Porro at Spurs. He's going to give you coverage for Game Week 31. Really good fixture at home against Bournemouth. And then beyond that, it depends what kind of route you want to go down. But of course, let me know in the chat pool what kind of route you're discussing. Otherwise, I think coming down to a really cheap option, maybe a Crystal Palace defender like an Anderson or maybe even a Mark Guy, is going to give you options in each game week, but not confuse your team. Something we'll discuss a little bit later on, of course. And Wasim's saying, it says Ken, and then it's got a lot of asterisks there. So I guess that's Kenya potentially we're tuning in from. And also, is it Perseus from Nigeria as well? That's awesome to see. In a game week where there's little talk of Salah, I decided to get him early. What are your thoughts? Absolutely jealous of you getting Mo Salah is probably the way I'm describing it right now. Based on Mo Salah long term, everybody is going to go to him in Game Week 34. So you going into him now just means that you're getting ahead of the curve. And if you have an easy way of bringing him in, then I absolutely think that is a good move. Leads away to kick off in Game Week 31 is perfectly fine. Really good fixture. Game Week 32, we need to assume that a lot of managers are going to own Mo Salah because those that don't have him are likely going to free hit him in Game Week 32. 33 away against West Ham, I think that's a good fixture. And then, of course, the double in 34, but importantly, both of those are at home, and we know Liverpool at home are a different beast to away, followed by another very good home fixture against Brentford. So I really do think bringing in Mo Salah this game week and beyond is a really nice differential strategy that I wish I could do with my team, but unfortunately don't think I can fit it in. And again, guys, if you can drop a like on the stream, it'd be much appreciated. It just gets it out to more people, and it shows me that you are enjoying the stream as well, which is really, really appreciated. Cheeks saying, can we see your team lineup and what is your current rank, please? FPL Nacho. Yeah, so my current rank right now is 127,000 in the world. Now, those that tune into my live streams each and every week know that I'm not delighted with that rank at all. I'm quite competitive, and obviously last season I finished 270th overall rank, which is by far the best that I'll probably ever get. And because of that reason, I've put a lot of pressure on myself this season, and unfortunately it hasn't gone the way I have wanted it to, but I'm always an optimistic person when it comes to FPL, and I really do still think I can crack that top 50k, and then it's going to be anyone's game once I get to that rank. So fingers crossed this game week is going to be not a disaster, because I think this game week is going to be almost just keeping up with the rest of the pack, and then hopefully game week 32 onwards can see the team start to really pick up and benefit on the free hit and the future planning that I'll be doing with my team. Now, in terms of my own personal team, that's a really good segue. As I'm going to show my current Game Week 31 team, how I'm looking as I am a Rashford and Luke Shaw owner. I'm going to discuss my plans with those, and then I'm going to tell you my transfer plans as I have a lot of headaches going on right now. So let's get right into that one now. So this is how my team is currently looking going into Game Week 31. A reminder, I have one free transfer and 0.1 million in the bank. I have absolutely stitched myself up here because I kept myself very fine with the budget, and I didn't really anticipate a situation, for example, where Rashford was going to get injured, because otherwise, if Rashford didn't get injured, if Luke Shaw didn't get injured, I'd be in a lovely situation right now where I could have a bit more freedom with my moves. But of course, those two things have happened, and we're in a bit of a sticky situation right now with the team because the money in the bank doesn't allow me to make certain transfers. For example, Odegaard to Grealish isn't a viable option because of the price rises that happened with Jack Grealish. Otherwise, I think that would have been my locked-in move, Odegaard to Grealish. But again, I can't make that move right now because the money in the bank is killer. So let's go through some of my thought process right now. Starting off with the goalkeepers. If anyone didn't see the recent press conference from Frank Lampard and a few insider knowledge accounts, it sounds like there could be potential rotation in the goalkeeper department, meaning Edouard Mendy could step up to the plate away against, at home against Brighton. So right now we're in a position where I don't even think Kepa's necessarily going to start. And to be honest with you, looking at that Chelsea team right now, knowing that they got Real Madrid in 4 days' time, I think that Brighton could easily dismantle Chelsea, meaning Raya is the automatic pick for my team. And I'm more than happy to play that, knowing that Wolves are quite blunt offensively. So I'm hoping Brentford can catch them in a similar day and get potentially a 0-0. We know Raya, if he does keep a clean sheet, is going to be racking up monster returns as he gets save points, and he really does well on the baseline for bonus. So he could be a really good pick this game week. Moving into defence, as I discussed, we got a Luke Shaw problem right now, but Ten Hag's recent press conference today suggests that he could be available for this fixture. Now, I personally view it as either Luke Shaw starts, because we need to remember both Varane and Martinez are out of Game Week 31. So I think Luke Shaw, if he is available, is going to start. I think it's a case of either he starts or he gets 0 game time. For that very reason, I'm more than happy to start him this week, knowing that I've got Botman or a Stupinhan to come off the bench to replace him if he does get 0 minutes. The big problem with my team right now is Ben Chilwell. The minutes are incredibly hard to predict. One way we can look at it is he got a red card in the Champions League. He isn't going to be playing against Real Madrid, so Frank Lampard, it basically has an easy option to start Ben Chilwell. The other hand is let the team down. Maybe he's going to give some minutes to Lewis Hall at left back, or he is going to play Cucurella, but I'll be very surprised if he plays Cucurella because, of course, Chile isn't in the Champions League squad, so he is going to need Cucurella in this Real Madrid game. And because of that very reason, I don't think that Cucurella is necessarily going to start, meaning likely Chilwell is. But it's that Chelsea defence is terrible right now. Now, moving into the midfield, Odegaard, Mitoma, March and Fernandes. As I discussed, Mitoma and March, I am more than happy to play those against this Chelsea team right now. I think there's going to be heavy rotation, and the way that Brighton are playing right now, if you have your Brighton assets, you start them. If you have 3 of them in attack, you start them all. That is how heavy I am and bullish on Brighton beating Chelsea. Now, as I discussed, Odegaard and Fernandes partner the Brighton midfield. I will come on to my transfer plans in a minute. Rashford on the bench. He's officially ruled out of Game Week 31, so he is going to sit on the bench. Now, my thought process right now on Rashford is, if we had clarification on him being out for a month, I would sell him, absolutely, and I would make an easy sideways move to someone like a Jack Grealish. However, Ten Hag has suggested that he could be available for the second leg against Sevilla, and because of that very reason, I cannot bring myself to sell Rashford. I'm free hitting in Game Week 32. Therefore, we have a bit more time for him to be available for that Game Week 33 fixture and beyond. And of course, the main reason why we want him is that double in Game Week 34 and that likely double in Game Week 37. So if I can avoid selling Rashford, I will. And it feels like it is the right time to just stick him on the bench, use the squad available to me, and reassess in Game Week 33 after the free hit that has been played. Looking at the front 3, there is no chance in hell that I'm selling any of those front 3 this game week. Haaland with the captaincy. I understand the kind of discussion about Harry Kane having more minutes than Haaland this game week. I could foresee that. But really, Haaland with 60 minutes against this Leicester team could do damage. Now, I'm probably the only person in the FPL community who actually thinks this might be a tricky game for Man City. Leicester fighting for their lives under a new managership in Dean Smith. Someone like John Terry in the defensive coaching sort of thing, I only imagine they're going to get better. So you could potentially clip this and come back to it and probably laugh at me, but I actually think this is going to be a tough game for Man City. Off the back of the Bayern Munich game, yes, they are chasing, of course, Arsenal in the league and they need to win every single game. But I don't think this is going to be much of a walk in the park as what it would have been a week ago. So, of course, let me know your thoughts in the chat in regards to the Man City-Leicester game. But I actually think it's going to be tougher than a lot of people are letting on, because the players are there for Leicester to cause problems. It's just whether they can defensively hold their own against Man City. Kane against Bournemouth, fantastic fixtures. No way I'm selling him this week. And Watkins, probably the most informed player in the league right now, aside from Haaland. So he could do damage against Newcastle. And of course, I do have Trippier, but we are in on the Trippier attack and returns rather than just the single clean sheet potential. So that's how the team is currently looking. Now, transfer plans. My head is absolutely scrambled right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. But let me talk through my current plans, and you guys can maybe let me know in the chat what your thoughts are on my team. Maybe a strategy that could be tempting. So, first and foremost, Jack Grealish, I can't get into this team, I don't think. And now I'll tell you why, and this might apply to a lot of people. I want Mo Salah in game week 34, and I free hit in game week 32. Now, Mitoma and March I'm having for the long term, absolutely, and Rashford, we'll assume, is going to be a long term hold. So, I either need to sell Odegaard or Fernandes to accommodate Mo Salah in game week 34. If in this game week I was to do Odegaard to Grealish and downgrade another player, I'm simply going to have Jack Grealish for 31, 33, and then most likely just sell him in game week 34 for Mo Salah if I was to keep Fernandes. So I don't even feel like necessarily the minus points to bring in Jack Grealish is going to really benefit my team over this 2-week period that we're discussing. So then we're looking at other alternatives. I could just take a simple sideways move and sell Ben Chilwell thinking that he is not a long-term hold and bring in someone like Nathan Ake for Man City coverage. However, I need to assess whether I think other defenders are more viable for me long-term. If, for example, a Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to be a player I want in the long term, how do I get him into this team? I can't have Ake, Luke Shaw, Trippier and Trent because with my midfielders and my front line, I am always going to be playing a back three more than likely because of the attacking potential that is available in the game right now. So if I was to bring in Ake and I want Trent later down the line, that just simply doesn't work with my structure. So then I need to look at my goalkeepers. Could Edison be a way into the Man City defence and I'm not using up a valuable defensive spot? So because of that reason, I could do Kepa into someone like Edison, give myself that Edison pick for this game week, which would mean Rare being bench. And then I could look to downgrade another position. So for example, I could downgrade then Ben Chilwell all the way down to a Crystal Palace defender, maybe someone like a Mark Guy, or whisper it quietly, potentially a Tarkowski as well. Now, I know I might be sounding absolutely crazy talking about someone like Tarkowski. However, we need to look at the games that we actually want to play our defenders in. And Everton in the games that I'd want to play Tarkowski in would look like Fulham at home. That's not too bad. I would then potentially play him in game week 33 at home against Newcastle. Could we see a Sean Dyche masterclass against Newcastle? Potentially. And then after that, really, I'm not going to need these defenders long term because I'm going to have Luke Shaw playing every week. I'm going to have Trippier playing every week. And then I've got Estupinan. Estupinan fixtures. Game week 34, double. Game week 35 at home against Everton. Game week 37 at home against Southampton. I'm going to want to play Estupinan in all of these fixtures for both defensive and attacking potential. So because of that reason, defenders are really hard to bring into my team as well. So to conclude, I'm a little bit scrambled right now what to do, and my chair is also going down. Just give me 2 seconds. Right, so my thought process right now, no bloody idea. And I would recommend following me on Twitter if you want to know exactly what I get up to. However, I don't think Grealish can come into this team. So I think I probably will get myself likely a Man City defensive coverage, whether it be Ake or Edison. But if I go to Ake, then it means that I would likely not get Trent in game week 34. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know I've been rambling, but it just gives you an idea on exactly why my brain is screwed going into this game week, as I think there are so many variations I could go for, and I really don't know exactly what direction to take my team. So if there's any advice in the comments, please do let me know. Right. I've been rambling about my own team. Let's get into some questions and then we'll move on to some Rashford replacements for those managers that are potentially wanting to sell him, because I think it's still a viable topic for us to discuss. So, Rio, hi Nacho, is it worth doing a -4 to replace Chilwell to Trent? I like it if you view it a long-term move. If you think to yourself, Trent between now and the end of the season is my guy, I like the -4. Paul, I have 3.6 million in the bank, targeting double game week 34. Could Trent be worth it as I'm free hitting in 32? Yes, Paul, I do think if you can get yourself to Trent, I really do think it is a fantastic move for your team if you have the money available. Long term, I do think it will pay dividends. Maybe not this week from a clean sheet perspective, as I really don't rate Liverpool from an away perspective. And the same applies to West Ham in game week 33. But you've got great coverage in game week 34 with that double. And you have gotten for them good fixtures like Brentford at home. And even in game week 38 away against Southampton could be anyone's game. So yes, I do like the move to Trent if you can get there. Nick, Salah or Grealish? I would go Salah if you can afford him. However, what I do want you to know is that Grealish doubles in game week 34 and potentially in game week 37. So he could be a really nice long-term move for your team. And Harry's saying Salah captaincy choice this week. Brought in Solanke, Salah and Grealish for a -4. Now, I really do like those moves, the players that you've brought into your team. I think Solanke is a nice player because you can happily bench him in the weeks where you have benching headaches and you don't have to sweat about it too much. Salah as a captaincy, I really do like. We will come on to captaincy in a bit later, but for me, if you have Haaland, I still think Haaland is the captaincy choice. In an hour against Leicester, he could do significant damage. But Salah, if you're chasing rank as a differential, is a fantastic move because, of course, midfielders get an additional point for a goal and, of course, an additional point for a clean sheet. You could see him overtake Haaland from a points perspective if that was the case. So I'm a big fan of that move there. Mads, hello from Norway. Already done Rashford to Grealish, considering taking a -4 to take Chilwell to Ake. I think some game weeks forward with that move, I will free hit in game week 32. Yes, I do like that move if you are looking at it as a long-term move. Of course, Ben Chilwell could play against Brighton, concede 2, but also score and get an assist. That is absolutely viable from Ben Chilwell's perspective, and I could see that sort of situation arise. But if you are viewing it from a long-term perspective, then yes, I do like the move. You're going to bring in Ake for that home game against Leicester, who of course don't have Harvey Barnes from injury. After that, they have got Arsenal at home in game week 33 if you were free hitting in 32. Not too good there from a clean sheet perspective. But then after that, between game weeks 34 to 38, the fixtures are fantastic, and I definitely could see clean sheets racking up over that period. Chilwell, on the other hand, I don't see as many clean sheets in the horizon. Brighton, I do not see a clean sheet. Brentford at home, Tony could easily do damage against them. Arsenal away, no chance. Bournemouth away, I honestly think they'll score against Chelsea. Forest at home, yes, that is a fantastic fixture for Ben Chilwell. But then they finish the season with City and Newcastle. I think that Chilwell out is a good move. But for your team this week, I don't think it is a desperate move for your team for a -4. Only if you are long-term planning, which it sounds like is the case for you there. And Anna's saying, Watkins or Tony, if I was buying right now, I think I would still be in the Watkins camp. But Tony does have a few decent fixtures to remind ourselves. Brentford have got Nottingham Forest at home in game week 34, which is very viable. But we do need to remember that a lot of teams do double in game week 34. So you may find yourself having a starting 11 of all players at double and then find it hard to play Tony in that fixture. So it is worth noting that. So I really do like Watkins still to this day. Villa, one of the most informed teams in the league, and Watkins himself performing very, very well. And Manon saying, hi Nacho, hope it's going good. It is, thank you very much. I have a benching decision between McAllister, Watkins and Isak. Which two should I play out of the lot? Okay, so as I said, I personally think that Brighton are going to go to town on Chelsea. So I think McAllister is a fantastic option. Watkins, of course, has their home fixture against Newcastle, and Isak is away against Aston Villa. I will say, even though Aston Villa have kept a lot of clean sheets, I don't actually think that they have been that good defensively. Their expected goals conceded has actually been pretty poor, and one would expect that that is going to return to the norm eventually. So don't be surprised if Aston Villa do start conceding some goals longer term. For me, I think I would be looking at McAllister and Watkins with benching Isak. I think Watkins is in too good form right now, and his ownership is enough that it could hurt you if you don't start him. And McAllister with this fixture against Chelsea, I really do think could be potential. Now, for me, Watkins is number one starter. So for me, I would definitely start Watkins. And then for you, it's a toss-up between Isak and McAllister. I'm vying towards McAllister, but I understand if you want to go for Isak. It's just the fact that playing against one another is a little bit like, ooh, are they both going to perform well? Cheekster has got Martinelli instead of Odegaard, and that is such a frustrating thing from my end, because first and foremost, you must be doing very well recently, and I really do hope you have been doing well. Martinelli was the pick. The Trossard signing killed me because I had Martinelli and then I sold him for Odegaard because Odegaard's numbers were fantastic, and we all thought Trossard would take minutes from Martinelli, which he did to start with. And then Martinelli just hit another gear. And here we are now, Martinelli, by far and away the best choice in midfield for Arsenal from a value perspective. JP, hi mate, how's footy going? Yes, going very well, thank you, but playing a lot of games right now, so my legs are aching. How do you rate the Man United defensive assets with their injury woes? Right now, we're in a position where I would not sell Luke Shaw, but I equally would not buy any Man United coverage, as I do think they're going to be struggling for clean sheets. So that's why I wouldn't be buying them, but I would hold them for sure. Your top three Man United assets now with all their injuries. Again, it's all about when you buy him. Rashford is still top of the tree once he returns. Bruno, I wouldn't be buying him realistically, but again, if you have him, you hold him. Outside of that, there's nothing really interesting me. I like Martial as a punt if you want to go down that route. But realistically, he is going to get injured at some point or get his minutes managed. And because of that reason, very difficult for me to sit here and tell you that Martial is a good route for points. So I'm in a position where I'm going to say, don't buy Man United, but equally don't sell them if you're in a position right now. Do I think no Zaha has anything to do with Palace's 2 wins? Potentially, it might put more onus on the likes of Eze and Elise to do well. That is definitely a viable discussion to have. But I really think it's a case of the fixtures have just turned for Crystal Palace. We need to remember Patrick Vieira was struggling against really, really top teams in the league. Is it a surprise that now that the fixtures are turned and the fixtures are great for Palace, they're starting to do well? I don't think it is I don't think it is a coincidence. I think Patrick Vieira would have done equally well. And do I think they're missing Zaha? No, I think Zaha would have done equally as well as the other players in this team. It is just a case of now it has to be distributed elsewhere, and Elise and Eze are the ones that are picking up the points. John is saying, would you still go Ake? If I had to pick a Man City defender right now, I would go for Ake. I don't think he's going to get moved in that team right now, personally. And JP saying, keep Isak or sell to Jesus or Kane. I wouldn't be buying Harry Kane right now because I think long term, you're probably going to look at him and think that is a cash cow for me to get some doublers like Salah. So I wouldn't be bringing him. I would keep Isak if I was you personally. He doubles in game week 37, we believe, or game week 36. I wouldn't be moving on Isak right now. And Alfred said, hi mate, bench one of Solanke or Maddison. You know what? I'm going to tell you to bench Solanke. I said this before. I do think we could see some drama in this Man City Leicester game. Again, crop it. Put me on social media, as it probably is going to become in a 4-0 spanking of Leicester. But it is FPL, and Maddison easily could just knock out the Man City clean sheet like it always happens. So I'll be starting Maddison 100% if I was you. Right. We're going to come back to the questions in a minute, but what I am just going to quickly do is go into the Rashford replacement section. This will be very quick. I just want to quickly, briefly go through my thought process on Rashford, and if you were to sell him, kind of my ranking system for them. So first and foremost, should you sell Marcus Rashford? I'm in the position right now where I think selling him is not the right move for your team if you are free hitting in game week 32. Man United blank in game week 32. Therefore, you give yourself an extra week to understand the situation on the Marcus Rashford injury. As I said, Ten Hag's interview suggests that he could be available for the second leg against Sevilla, which is next week. So if you are one that is free hitting in game week 32, you have the Sevilla game, you then have the FA Cup semi-final, and then you have the game week 33 fixture for Man United against Spurs. So I think that's enough of a time right now and enough inclination from Ten Hag to suggest holding Rashford is the right move. Now, if you're in a position where you're not free hitting in game week 32 and you're reliant on Rashford to play, maybe selling him is the right move. Now, if you are selling him and you're not free hitting in game week 32, then Grealish doesn't really become an option, and so too Mitoma. They both blank in game week 32. So you're basically selling Rashford, who blanks in 32, for other options that blank in 32. So therefore, we move on to the ones that are viable. Mo Salah and Martinelli, two opposite spectrums of the price bracket. Mo Salah, for me, is one of the best midfielders between now and the end of the season. He plays in game week 32, which we need to remind ourselves, at home against Nottingham Forest, which is a fantastic fixture. He then is away against West Ham, doubles in 34, and then he has 2 home games and 2 away games to finish off the season against what we would describe 2 mid-table teams in Brentford and Villa and 2 bottom half teams in Leicester and Southampton. So I think there are really good fixtures for Liverpool and in particular Mo Salah. But of course, if you are selling Rashford, you probably don't have the money available to upgrade to Mo Salah unless you are doing a combination transfer, maybe selling Kane down to someone and then upgrading someone like Rashford. So if that is the case and you are doing that, Salah is the way to go. Otherwise, I think eyes back on Martinelli is the route that I would look at. 6.7 million and his underlying numbers are fantastic. 0.41 XG per 90 is far and beyond the likes of Grealish, and his expected assist per 90 as well is looking okay at 0.19 per 90. So really decent underlying numbers, and he is predicted to score more points than Jack Grealish over the next 4 game weeks. But of course, Grealish does blank in game week 32, but he doubles in 34. So of course, we need to keep that in the back of our minds. So if I was looking at it right now, Rashford to Grealish makes absolute sense if you don't really think Rashford is going to be beneficial to a team. Grealish, great fixture 31, great fixture 33, and of course blanks in 32 if you free hit. Mitoma, however, is a fantastic move if you have no Brighton coverage right now. We need to remind ourselves, Brighton, 33 away against Nottingham Forest, great fixture, double in game week 34, and they will have another double game week in either 36 or 37. So they are long-term holds, and if you have no Brighton coverage, I think going to a Brighton midfielder and keeping that money in the bank is a really, really good move for your team. But of course, I expect a lot of you do have Brighton midfielders in your teams. Otherwise, your rank has probably been getting hurt week in, week out. So to conclude, I would not be selling Rashford, and I really wouldn't urge you guys to sell him based on the Ten Hag discussion. I would sell him if I'm not free hitting in game week 32 and your squad can't manage it without him. Then I would look to bring in Mo Salah if you can afford it. Otherwise, bringing in an Arsenal midfielder like Martinelli is a fantastic move. Jack Grealish, I wouldn't bring in from Rashford based on the Ten Hag discussion. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'd be super interested to know what your current mindset is with Rashford. I've gone from selling him now to keeping him based on my strategy. Bola saying, needed to get rid of Tony, right? But for who? Free hit 32. I don't think you need to rush to sell Tony at all. Based on this game week, this week, he has a fixture away against Wolves. I think that's absolutely fine to have. Then you're free hitting the 32, and then you come into Chelsea away. Now, Chelsea are not a team to be worried about at all. Then he plays Nottingham Forest at home. You do have to worry about the yellow card situation, but you can deal with that once you get to it. I don't think you need to rush to sell Tony at all right now, personally. Alex, miss the FPL Fan Show, say hello to Connor. Absolutely will do. Alex, yeah, obviously we had to end that just because of work commitments and stuff, but we still do, well, I still do a lot of stuff over on TikTok, so please do make sure you do check that out if you are one of those that do on TikTok. Paul Gibbons, personally, I think Edison in. Chilwell out for double game week 34 player. Would you look to sell Kane and Odegaard for Salah and double game week striker? Yeah, Paul, so coming back to my personal team here, what I would look to do in that situation is I want to occupy a midfield slot. So just to give you an idea of my team, the way I'm viewing my team long term is the Odegaard spot, it has to become Mo Salah if I want to keep Bruno. Because, of course, while I'm not actually bullish on Bruno, he does double in 34 and he will double in game week 37. So it's very difficult to move away from Bruno. So because of that reason, look at Odegaard as the Salah position. And therefore, me doing Odegaard to Grealish is only going to be a 2-week move, because then I'm going to look to move that up into Jack Grealish. So can Grealish return the negative 4-point hit? Absolutely. Do I want to do it? I feel less and less inclined the more I think about it. So yes, what you're saying is right. I would downgrade Kane to maybe even someone like a Martial if I look to sell another Man United player. Otherwise, a cheap enabler, maybe even going all the way down to someone like a Greenwood at Leeds and just starting Watkins with a single game week. And then, of course, I will look to then upgrade Odegaard to Mo Salah. Right, let me bring that Rashford replacement screen back up. Maddison to Salah, sell Watkins to Greenwood, or Chilwell to a Crystal Palace defender from -4. Very difficult here, because I really like the Maddison to Salah move long term. Selling Watkins to Greenwood, though, doesn't feel right. But if there probably was a time to move away from Aston Villa, it probably is getting nearer and nearer the time. So understand, if you sell Watkins, it could have a negative impact, because you're selling a guy who's one of the most informed forwards in the league right now. But I think there's more upside to the move of bringing in Salah than doing Chilwell to Palace defender, personally. And Tor saying, my midfield is Matoma, March, Fernandes, Saka and Rashford. Frontline is the same as yours. In defence this game week, using the free hit in 32, do you agree that Rashford for a City midfielder, Martinelli, makes the most sense this week? I can't see a major upside using the transfer elsewhere. Would roll unless free hit 32. So Tor, this is the thing right now. If you do sell Rashford this game week, you're going to want him back, because I think if he is back for game week 33, you're going to really regret that move that you have made. So because of that reason, I wouldn't personally do it. I wouldn't be selling him if you are planning on free hitting in game week 32. Lewis Conn saying, evening, looking to play 3 at the back. Who to bench out? Trippier, Zinchenko, Chilwell, Botman, or Estupinan? Well, I couldn't advise you benching Trippier personally. So I think Trippier is an absolute lock for you. I think Zinchenko is a really good pick as well. I probably would go for Trippier, Zinchenko and Chilwell if you're not planning on selling Chilwell, because he is very much an upside chasing pick. He could, as I said, concede 2 goals but score 2. He's one of those players. So I'd probably go for Trippier, Zinchenko and Chilwell personally. Rashford replacement if you already have March, Matoma, Fernandes and Grealish. Okay, so Jono, first and foremost, as I said, do you need to sell him? That's the big thing right now. Do you need to sell Rashford? Because I think we're in a spot right now where you don't need to. Then after that, you need to ask yourself, what budget do you have available? If you can get to Mo Salah, that is the easy route to go for. Then the question is, are you free hitting? If you're not free hitting, maybe an Arsenal midfielder is the route to go for you. Mateus is saying, oh yeah, man, no words at all. Mateus is saying, sell Maddison for Grealish or Chilwell for Trent. So I think the big thing for you, Mateus, is how do you view these transfers? Are you looking at Grealish for a couple of weeks and then you're going to upgrade him to Mo Salah? If that's the case, I'd rather you do Chilwell to Trent personally. But then does Chilwell to Trent block you from getting Mo Salah? These are all the things you need to ask yourself, and why I don't want to just give you a kind of blanket answer, as I think there's more elements to the actual answer there. Alex said, don't forget to like and subscribe. Yes, guys, please do consider dropping that like button. It's totally free. And if you are enjoying it, it just shows that you are enjoying it to me. And it is much appreciated on that one. Right, so keep going, guys. Keep discussing. Keep dropping the questions in the chat. I will be coming to them as I always do throughout. But I want to move on to a quick captaincy section, as I think it is probably splitting a few FPL managers out there. And it might be worth us just chatting about right now. Now, as always, when we are coming into the captaincy chat, I want to put in a captaincy poll so you guys can engage and let me know your thoughts. So I'm just putting in a poll right now for game week 31 captaincy. So the options available are going to be, of course, Haaland, Kane, Mo Salah. And I'm going to put an other option. And if you're in a position right now where you are looking at doing another option, if you could just let me know in the comment section, that'd be really appreciated. Just get an idea on what direction you're planning on going. So let me just put that in the chat right now. If you can, just drop a quick vote on the captaincy one. Let me know exactly what direction you are going for with your team. I personally, as I said, I'm not moving away from Erling Haaland. I think, although it could be a tricky game, if anyone is going to score in that game, it is going to be Haaland, and Man City are looking fantastic right now. So, looking at captaincy, is there an argument to go against Haaland? I think there can be. Harry Kane, as we discussed, has a fantastic home game against Bournemouth, and they have the worst expected goals conceded of the three opponents at 1.67 per 90. However, he plays for the team that has the worst expected goals per 90 at 1.34. So it is worth noting that you are captaining a player that has the worst XG from a team perspective. Mo Salah is the differential pick. And if you are chasing rank, because of course some people out there are in different positions, some are protecting rank. If that's the case, you obviously go for Haaland. If you're chasing rank, I think Salah is a really nice option. 22% live ownership right now, so he is only owned by a fifth of the game, so he could be a really nice differential move. And we need to remember, midfielders get an additional point for a goal and an additional point for a clean sheet, which can really add up. And against this Leeds team, who just conceded 5 goals against Crystal Palace, it could be a mauling for them again against Liverpool if they do turn up. The one thing I would worry about is the away form of Liverpool right now. Really, really tough to predict, really tricky to understand why they are struggling away from home and why they are fantastic at home. Maybe it is just the crowd, but there is clearly a trend happening with their performances away from home. And I would not be surprised, like they've done this season, they put in a fantastic game and then they struggle the following weeks. And that could happen against Leeds. And that's my one worry about Mo Salah is I don't know what Liverpool and what Mo Salah are going to turn up in that game. Now, Harry Kane, as I said, great fixture, probably the pick of the bunch from a expected goals conceded perspective, and he is just churning out the points. But the big thing about it is he isn't necessarily being explosive, and that is why I always come back to Erling Haaland. His predicted points are at 7.5, but if I told you that a player was going to get a 20-point haul, you know that is going to be Erling Haaland compared to Kane. Kane, I believe, has had 3 braces this season, which is fantastic. But when we are looking at that real upside chasing player, I personally think Haaland is the one over Harry Kane. And it's not necessarily because Harry Kane can't do it. I just think this Spurs team aren't attacking at the level to actually give Harry Kane the potential to rack up a potential hat-trick against Bournemouth. And for that very reason, I think that's enough why we go for Haaland. And even if it's going to be 60 minutes of Haaland, I'd rather do that than pick both Harry Kane and Mo Salah. And of course, ownership does play a factor as well. 81% live ownership right now. So it is going to be difficult to go against Haaland, knowing that a lot of the FPL community are going to be moving towards him. And based on the voting right now in the chat, there are 24 votes right now. Please do drop a vote if you haven't already. 92% of managers are going for Haaland, 4% are going for Kane, 4% are going for other. And I'm trying to see in the chat if anyone has put in who the other one was. So if you haven't put it in, please do, as I'll be very interested to know exactly who is going against Haaland and Harry Kane. I'll be super interested to know on that one there. Okay, right. So as I said, I think realistically, Haaland is the pick to go for. If you are brave to go against him, then I do applaud you. And then Harry Kane is a fantastic differential alongside Mo Salah. So I would rank them Haaland number 1, Salah number 2, because of course he's a midfielder, and Harry Kane number 3. Just because I can't predict that Spurs team, that could easily be a game where Bournemouth turn up and do one over on Spurs, or Spurs run away 4-0 winners. I really couldn't sit here and tell you confidently which way that game is going to go. Because of that reason, I just find it difficult to trust Harry Kane and Spurs in game week 31. So let me come back to some of the chat, guys, and then we will move on to just a quick discussion about potential rotation in the upcoming games. I think that's worth discussion as well for us managers, right? JP saying, Lampard was an amazing player, but below average manager. Thoughts? Yeah. I think it's just a perfect example. Sometimes it just doesn't transition into what we would expect. I think he's done a good job done a good job in his first spell at Chelsea where they had the transfer embargo. He had to play the youth. The youth just happened to be very good players in the shape of Tomori, Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham. So the team were very good, even though he'd done a very good job with them. Then, of course, he had previously at Derby done very well to get them up. Apologies, I don't think they didn't go up, but he done a very good job to get them into the playoffs. And other than that, his spells have been very, very poor, to say the least. Why that is, I just guess it is a case of the experience isn't necessarily there. He might be one of those people that needs 10 years in the job to really get an understanding of what kind of manager he is and really implement his style. It just doesn't seem like he has got that kind of touch right now that he needs to be a manager. Lay's hint, sorry I'm late fam, absolutely no worries at all, good to see you in there. And bench one of Watkins, Matoma or McAllister. Thanks for content, no worries at all. If I had to bench one of those right now, I would really be against benching Watkins because of the form he's in right now. So I'm gonna go against what I said about the Brighton team. I think Watkins is one of those that would be above the Brighton team, and therefore I would go for Watkins and Matoma and bench McAllister. JP saying, what's the dinner, guys? I need some ideas. I have no idea right now tonight. Apologies, so I cannot inspire you. Maybe a pizza, nice and easy for you. Charlie, -4 Navas to Ederson, Havertz to Haaland, and Maddison to Grealish. I see nothing wrong with that move. You're bringing in a fantastic long-term move in Ederson, and he's going to play every game and he doubles. Havertz to Haaland feels like the biggest upgrade I've ever heard of, honestly. That's ridiculous. And Maddison to Grealish, yeah, I'm all about that. -4 if you can do it, Charlie. I would do that tonight. Lewis, those are the three I currently have in. So cheers, no worries at all. Only Haaland. And more technique would do well. No worries at all that you're late. You would be mad and head to go against Haaland. Yes, I think a lot of people would be brave to go against Haaland. Is probably the way I would describe it. Mohamed, sack it out for Grealish or hold. Depends on your strategy. If you're free hitting in game week 32, then I like the move. If you're not free hitting in game week 32, then I wouldn't make the move. That's kind of the way I would view it right now. Alex has seen a lot of people go for Olise. I really like Olise. I just want to know whether it is super short term, the reason why a lot of us are going in on him. He had 3 assists in game week 30. That's fantastic. But prior to that, very few and far between returns. I would want to see a bit more before taking the jump on Olise, because it's not necessarily I'm against Olise. It's the price point that he's at. You've got all the Brighton assets at a similar price point. I'd much rather go for those first and foremost. Then we also need to fit into our midfield someone like a Mo Salah, somebody like a Rashford, and also someone like, an Arsenal midfielder, a Man City midfielder. So it's very, very hard to find a team structure that can accommodate Olise into the team. So guys, keep voting in the Captaincy chat. I can see 90% are going for Haaland based on the voting right now. Let me go into just a quick slide based on European minutes. This is a brilliant one that Finn knocked up, who does all of our graphics. So please do give him a shout out in the chat. He done this for super last minute, and I really do appreciate it. And it's a really, really nice graphic here. So this is based on the minutes played in the Champions League or in the Europa League, depending on which team you support. And it just gives us a bit of an idea on what actually happened. So take Chelsea, for example. Reece James played the full game, and he last played on Wednesday. And the second leg is 6 days after that fixture on the Tuesday. And a reminder, they play tomorrow against Brighton. So they're going to be doing Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday. And if you're someone like Reece James who's returned from a long-term injury, I would be very, very surprised if Reece James plays against Brighton this weekend. So if you are a Reece James owner, I would anticipate rotation there. Chilwell, on the other hand, only plays 60 minutes because of the red card. The same applies to him regarding the day's rest. However, he isn't going to be playing in that second leg against Real Madrid. Therefore, I do think there is potential for Chilwell to play in this fixture against Brighton. As I said, I am anticipating Chelsea to concede, but he does offer that attacking potential if they were to play a 3 at the back. Players that I expect to start for Chelsea would include the likes of Mendy in goal, Badiashile, because of course he isn't in the Champions League squad. I would anticipate potentially see someone like a Trevor Chalobah. And because Cucurella is going to be required in the Champions League, I would be surprised if he plays in the league, therefore opening the door for someone like Chilwell. Unless Lewis Hall gets given license to play at left back, I don't think there's any others that can be deployed in that spot. Therefore, I think Chilwell's minutes could be solid in this game. Moving on to Man City, as we can see here, Haaland played the full game similar to Jack Grealish. Their schedule was Tuesday against Bayern Munich, Saturday against Leicester, Wednesday against Bayern Munich. So I think that's a big enough gap, Saturday to Wednesday, to think that Haaland is going to be absolutely fine to get some significant minutes against Leicester. Some would argue that he wants to get rested, but the fact that they had a 3-0 victory against Bayern Munich would suggest to me Pep Guardiola isn't going to be treating them lightly, but it's gone as good as it possibly could for Haaland owners. Therefore, there isn't enough worry here to think that he needs to get substituted or not captained. And for that very reason, I think Haaland is just the logical pick for captaincy, as I think his minutes are going to be solid. De Bruyne, on the other hand, only plays 70 minutes against Bayern, and I think that is good stead if you are looking at a differential pick on De Bruyne. As I mentioned, he has significant rest from Saturday to Wednesday for their Champions League game. Could he get rotated? Absolutely, it could happen. We could see the integration of some other players into the team. Would I go to De Bruyne right now? No, I don't think it's worth the risk right now, and his price point is very hard to justify. But if you are chasing, because he only plays 70 minutes, I think that looks good for the Leicester game on Saturday. Last up, Grealish played the full game, but realistically, I don't foresee any other player that can operate on that left side of the front three right now, with Foden being out, still recovering from surgery, Mahrez being on the right flank. I don't see Alvarez playing on the left, therefore, I think Grealish is looking very good for his minutes, even though he did play a significant amount in the Champions League. And moving into the last one, of course, the Man United team. Fernandes plays 60 minutes in that game. I don't know if that's correct. I believe he played 80. I might be wrong there, but Fernandes played not the full match, but he did play some decent minutes in the Europa League tie. But of course, Fernandes plays every game. It doesn't matter if he only had one leg, he would feature for Man United. So there's no worries about Bruno's minutes, in particular because Rashford is ruled out, and of course, key players are missing in the likes of Martinez and Varane. They're going to fall back on Fernandes for that experience and of course that talismanic figure. So that is why I think he is absolutely locked in for the fixtures between now and the end of the season. But it's worth noting, if you are a Martinez owner, if you're a Varane owner, you should be worried because they of course went off injured and they are likely to miss a significant amount of game time because of those injuries. Right, let's get back into some of the conversation in the chat before we move on to the last slide, which is going to be the predicted points for Game Week 31, just to help you with potentially some thoughts that you are going for in your transfers. Right. Cheeks at FPL Nacho, which game week you plan on selling Kane for double Game Week 34 to bring Salah in? Yes, exactly that. I think Kane could be a really nice differential hold between now and the end of the season. We need to remind ourselves that Spurs do not have a double in any game week between now and the end of the season, which is the reason why a lot of managers are moving away from him. But it doesn't change the fact that he still has some really good fixtures. Game week 35 at home against Palace, game week 37 at home against Brentford, and he finishes the season in game week 38 away against Leeds. So I do think there is potential for him to do well, but him versus Mo Salah, I think Mo Salah would be my route to go for. Therefore, Harry Kane is very much a cash cow for a lot of managers, including myself. And that is why I think Kane out in game week 34 to go up to Mo Salah is the right move. And we can address it then and there, which forward needs to be the replacement. Could we see a situation where those that left a Man City spot open, Alvarez could be a fantastic differential if you want to go down that route. Otherwise, could Martial emerge as a forward option at 6.3 million? Otherwise, we go all the way down to either a Solanke or right down to the 4 million option in Greenwood of Leeds. Those are all options that we need to address once we get to game week 34. As we've seen, so much can happen in the future game weeks that could change our future plans. I don't think we need to focus too much on which particular player we would buy to be the cash cow. And Popey's saying, would you sell any of McAllister, March or Maddison for Salah for a -4? Maddison, absolutely. I would be holding McAllister in March because they double in 34 and they will double again in either 36 or 37. Do not be selling your Brighton options at all. And David's saying, is it worth taking a hit for Rashford to Martinelli in order to have 11 for game week 32. Yes, so David, I think you're in a position right now. If you're not free hitting in game week 32, then you need to assess your options. If we get a situation where Rashford potentially doesn't play in 32, then of course that is a player that doesn't feature for your team. I think Martinelli is a really nice move for your team if you don't free hit. It's going to give you a fixture with that great home game against Nottingham Forest. And we need to remember Martinelli is one of the best performers right now from a midfield perspective and great value. So for that very reason, I think Martinelli is a brilliant sideways move if you really need to field a player in game week 32. The one thing I would say, you of course are removing a player like Rashford who will double in 34 and in 37 later down the line. Madden saying -4 for Isak to Jesus, advisable. I wouldn't rush to make that move. I think it's only very good if you're not free hitting in game week 32, because then you're bringing Gabriel Jesus for that great home fixture against Nottingham Forest. But the one thing I would say is Isak later down the line will have a double game week in either 36 or 37. So just be cautious of that. You will be selling a player that will double later down the line. And Sochan saying Chilwell to Trent for a -4, free hit in 32. 34 Kane out and Salah in. 10 double game week players. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Yes, Chilwell to Trent, long term, I really do like the move. I think that is a really viable move for your team. So because of that very reason, yes, I would say that is a good move. The only thing I will say is Chilwell is one of those high upside players that could easily concede 2 against Brighton, but then of course score against them as well. So there is definitely a high ceiling for Chilwell if he was to do well, but I think it's fine going to Trent for a -4 and view it as a long-term move. And Cristiano's in the chat saying best Rashford replacement without the free hit. So Cristiano, I'll just draw you to my Rashford replacement screen here. If you don't have the free hit, I would ignore Grealish and Matoma and I'll cast your eyes to Mo Salah and Martinelli. If you have the funds available to Salah, that is the route I'd go for. Otherwise, I really like Martinelli. What I would say to you is the other option is, do you need to sell Rashford? I understand that you're not free hitting in game week 32 and he will blank, but do you have the squad available to maybe bench Rashford and start someone else in his place in game week 32? If that isn't the case and you are more than comfortable with selling Rashford, then I think Martinelli is a really nice sideways move for your team. Cheeks saying Fernandez did get substituted after 62 minutes. Just double check. Thank you very much. That I shouldn't be doubting film with the slides there. And David saying planning on a free hit in 34. So if you're free hitting in game week 34, then we need to remind ourselves that you have the opportunity to bring in Man United and Man City options that will be doubling in 34. So just to remind ourselves, game week 34 is a fantastic time to free hit if you have planned your team correctly. Liverpool double, so you're going to go triple Liverpool. Man City double, so you go triple Man City. And of course, Man United double, so you go for triple Man United. So you could have a very, very powerful free hit team. So you're going to be want to look at teams that have good single game week fixtures. And because of that very reason, I think Arsenal assets do tick that box for you. Therefore, Martinelli is the answer. You get him for that game week 32 home game against Nottingham Forest, which was fantastic. I would go for Martinelli. And John saying a free hit in the 32. I couldn't get from Rashford to Grealish. So if bench Rashford and then Saka to Grealish and Chilwell to Trent for -4. Thoughts? Yes, don't mind that at all. If you're free hitting in game week 32, although Saka is going to be a really painful sell for you, you could look to triple up on the Arsenal attack in game week 32 and then just go without Arsenal for a little bit longer and maybe look to bring them back in when their fixtures look to get good again. Maybe around game week, just to remind myself, game week 36 where they go Brighton, Forest, Wolves. That could be a really good time to jump back in on them then. So last time I'm just going to put the predicted points slide on just so it gives you an idea on which players you should be targeting for game week 31 in isolation. No surprises whatsoever that Haaland is leading the way at 7.5 projected points. And then we have the likes of Harry Kane at 6.4 and De Bruyne at 6.4 as well. Some notable differentials in case you were inclined to do that. Son, I wouldn't be going there myself, but he does look good for the projected points. Mahrez, he was benched in the Champions League. Could we see him start in the Premier League? I think that is viable. So he could be a really nice differential if you want to pay a little bit more. But of course, long term, I do prefer Grealish as a minutes perspective. Perisic and Pedro Porro, we haven't touched on those from attacking Spurs perspective, but of course they do have Bournemouth at home in this game week. Now, long term, I don't really like it from a defensive perspective. I think Spurs are going to be few and far between from a clean sheet perspective. But I do like them for this game week in isolation and the attacking potential that they do offer. Pedro Porro would be my choice, as there are injuries in the right back role for Emerson Royale. So I don't think you necessarily need to rush in the additional money to bring in someone like Perisic. I think Pedro Porro is a perfectly good option if you are going down that Spurs route. So let me leave that on the screen for you guys. So we're going to go for another 5 minutes. So let me go into the questions in the comment section. I'll answer any further questions. So if you have any, please do put them in. 5-minute warning, and I can get to them before we end the stream. So that'll be much appreciated. And again, if you can drop a like, it is always massively appreciated. Just so shows that you're enjoying the stream, and it's always good to know from a selfish perspective that is actually going okay for you guys. So please do let me know in the comments section. And again, if you haven't already, please do vote on the poll that we've got going right now. Who is your game week 31 captain? Are you going for Haaland? Are you going for Salah? Or are you going for Kane? Or maybe other, if you have another one that you think could do really well. So just to remind you guys, in terms of my personal team, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I will be, of course, updating you guys on my Twitter, FPL Nacho, and of course on TikTok, which is FPL Fan. A little bit confusing there. So if you do follow my team closely, do check that out. So I will be updating you guys there. So John said his question. FPL Junkie, hope you're doing well, buddy. Best City defender to get in for Chilwell. Also, if so, should I start them over Shaw this week? Yeah, so this is the big deliberation right now, because I think a lot of people are looking at it thinking, if Luke Shaw plays against this Nottingham Forest team, do I need the Man City player this week? So that's the big deliberation right now. I think I'm going to say this. All the Man City defenders are a worry from a minutes perspective. That's why people are going for Ederson as their easy option. So I really can't confidently tell you that there is one defender that is going to get significant minutes. Diaz is the most expensive, and I think he is probably, if anyone is going to play every minute, going to be the one. I don't think they have anyone else that can really play that centre of a three that they play like he does. So I think Diaz is worth the money if you want to go there. But realistically, I probably would go for Ake. I don't really know who can operate on that left side other than maybe Rico Lewis or Laporte, but it feels a bit out of position for Laporte. So for that very reason, I think Ake at 5 million or 5.1 is the route that I would recommend. I think Akanji as well, but he could get rotated from time to time potentially. But again, it's all guesswork with Pep, unfortunately. And I do think I would, if you're going to bring him in, you have to start him over Luke Shaw. I think that's the only thing I'm viewing right now is if you bring him in, you kind of have to start them, which kind of feels a little bit wrong. Then you have to ask yourself, if you are selling, who are you starting as well? Let me know in the chat. Who are you starting as well over him? Aloof saying, why sell Chilwell for Trent? It depends on your team. Long-term Trent doubles in game week 34, which looks really good. And Chilwell's minutes might be a worry going into this game week. Maybe Lampard thinks to himself, I'm just going to play a completely different team to give them an opportunity to fight for their place for this league in the Champions League second leg. Or Chilwell's going to play because he can't play against Real Madrid. People are doing it mainly with a long-term perspective. Who would you transfer Kepa out for? Ederson would be my number one pick if you are going down that route. Otherwise, you could go to someone like Sam Johnston. He is currently in right now ahead of the injured Gaita, but that could be a worry later down the line. So I think Ederson, if you can get there. I am free hitting in game week 32. I still have my wild card. Not sure when to play it. Thoughts? Okay, so if you're definitely free hitting in game week 32, I would probably look to wildcard in game week 33 or 34 and get yourself those doublers for game week 34. If you have your bench boost as well available, then you're in a really good position because you could wildcard in game week 33 and bench boost in game week 34 and really capitalise. FPL Junkie, any thoughts on selling Bruno? Seems to still be playing deeper. Yeah, it has crossed my mind about selling Bruno completely and that being my cash cow for other players. So, for example, selling Bruno maybe to Mo Salah in game week 30, 34, or even be in the cash cow to bring in Jack Grealish. Just because he doubles in 37 as well as 34 makes you think I'm going to want triple United. And I don't think I trust any other Man United option outside of both Rashford, Fernandes and Luke Shaw. De Gea is another option. Martial, but is he going to play all those doubles? Probably not. Nick, hi Nacho, why you choose different Twitter and TikTok handles? So I might rebrand the FPL fan on TikTok to FPL Nacho, potentially something to think about for the new season. I just kind of left it how it is right now because my Twitter activity is definitely not the same as my TikTok activity. So I've kind of just left TikTok as it is, left Twitter as it is for now, and I'll probably reassess in the new season how, and maybe even rebrand and bring back the YouTube channel potentially, but we'll see on that. I will update you guys on that one. What's your thoughts on going with Mahrez over Grealish? I don't mind it, but if you're looking at it from now into the end of the season, I think Grealish, the answer is cheaper. And of course, his minutes are way more guaranteed. The thing I say about Mahrez, I think he could be a great 1 week punt, but if you're looking longer than 1 week, then I would be worried. Cheekster, Nacho, what are you using your one free transfer on this week? Kepa rare to Edison for Man City defensive coverage, maybe. So I definitely would do that move if I could do it for a 1 free transfer, but I don't have the money in the bank, unfortunately. Otherwise, I definitely would do Kepa to Edison. A move that has crossed my mind potentially is doing, as I said, Edison in for Kepa and then downgrading someone like a Chilwell all the way down to a Crystal Palace defender, for example. That is a route that I have thought about, and just getting rid of Chilwell in general. So I would recommend that if you have that capacity to do it, bringing Edison is a great move. Manon saying, not free hitting in 32, thinking of therefore bringing a transfer ahead to 31. Would you rather take a hit for Trent or Jesus? Prefer Jesus because he's a great differential. His minutes are guaranteed and Arsenal are the best team in the league, arguably. But the one thing I would say to you is Trent doubles in game week 34 and that additional fixture could pay dividends for you. And he has a great home game against Nottingham Forest as well. A great home fixture against Nottingham Forest at 32. So I would be very inclined to go for the Trent option and just chase that potential clean sheet and attack and return dream that we all want. Junkie, personally not selling Rashford for Grealish as I have to bench Watkins. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Rashford would not be a sell for me personally. And can we play Shaw in the starting 11 this week? Yes, I will be starting Shaw as I think he either starts and plays 90 or we get 0 minutes. And because of that reason, you just have your first bench sorted, ready to come in if Shaw does not get those minutes. Right. I think we're going to wrap it up there, guys. I do apologise. We've been going for just over an hour, and I think that's a really solid amount for this live stream for Game Week 31. I really hope it has provided some value to you guys, and hopefully I've gone through all the questions that you have asked, as you guys have been super engaging in the chat, and I really do appreciate it, as it keeps the flow of the live stream going. It isn't just me talking to the camera. It gives me an opportunity to go back and forth with some of your questions in the chat, so I really do appreciate you guys engaging in the comment section. It just makes these live streams way better than me just chatting to myself for an hour, so thank you so much for that. Once again, if you haven't already, please do consider dropping a like on the live stream on your way out and also hitting that subscribe button. We still have a month or so left until the end of the season, and we do drop plenty of videos, so if you found this useful, you might find some of the other presenters useful alongside myself in other game weeks. Poppy saying Maddison to Salah or Grealish. Grealish will leave me short in game week 32 as I want to hold my free hit. If you're free hitting in game week 34, then Salah is better in 34 alongside Grealish. If you're in that position, I would say to you on my leaving thought, potentially consider doing an Arsenal player would be my thought on that one there. Maddison to an Arsenal player could be an option for you. And Intellectual Honesty saying, as I'm free hitting in game week 32 and wildcard in 34, what's the best team's target for a clean sheet in 31 and 33? 31 and 33 for a clean sheet. 31 defensively, we're looking at the likes of, Pedro Porro for game week 31 in isolation could pay you back in dividends and just in that. Southampton have Palace and Bournemouth. That could be tasty, but I don't trust any of their defence. whisper it quietly. Everton, Fulham and Newcastle. Could we see a Sean Dyche masterclass at home? Maybe a Tarkowski as a cheap enabler. Otherwise, that's probably the route I'll go for. Or Wolves, Brentford and Palace, potentially. So hopefully this has been a good stream, guys. Really appreciate you guys once again. And I will see you in the next one. Take care.